man, hey, we got to stop talking about OKC being on its own tier. That we can no longer say with a straight face.
Man, I think we could just read a quote. We can just read a quote from the reigning most valuable player in the NBA, Gilgeous-Alexander, who said, quote, "You don't lose to a team 3 times in a row without them being better than you."
3 times in
That
10
says it all.
days, folks. That's a playoff series. 3 times in 10 days to end your season.
That's what's fascinating about this is it had, like, obviously it's not playoff stakes, but there were some stakes in Vegas, and the Spurs were able to pull out a win there. Tough game, close game, pull out a win there. And Shea, after that game, talked about it's kind of like being in school. You flunk a test, and you get to take a retest real soon. Well, they flunked 3 tests now, and these last 2 ones, they flunked them badly. Right now, they're flunking the course right now. And look, I'm not saying panic in OKC or anything like that. They're 26-5, but they're 26-2 against everybody else but the Spurs, who they're 0-3 against. And, you know, they asked me on Get Up the other day if San Antonio had OKC's number. I said, it's way too early for that. If they don't have their number, I don't know, man. They at least give them a ton of problems, and we'll see on January 13th if OKC can figure some of those problems out.
First off, let me just say this. The Spurs are only 2 games back in the loss column from the number 1 seed now. That's number 1, and they got the tiebreaker.
I was going to say they clinched the tiebreaker now for sure. Even though they play 5 times, they've won 3.
So they're kind of a game and a half back. Now, I'm not going to sit here and talk a lot about seeding, but I'm just saying in general, it's not like the Spurs are a good matchup. They have a matchup advantage, but then they have trouble elsewhere. This team is hunting the best record in the league right now.
Well,
okay.
Let's get to it. Wendy, do you have reservations for San Antonio in June?
Okay, so at the start of this, do I have reservations? No, I do not. I only have reservations in Oklahoma City. I've actually been mulling. I just watched Jokic have an absolutely gorgeous first half against the Wolves. I have been mulling making them in Denver, just not a commentary in Oklahoma City, just because.
You can cancel them.
Yeah, just because I am just in awe of Jokic night in and night out more than anything. But now I'm not there yet, but it's a conversation. It's a conversation. I look, this Spurs team is so impressive to me. And it's not just Victor. Here's the thing:
Dude,
if Victor was
coming off the bench with a minutes restriction, and
I know he's
OKC
playing 20 minutes.
time.
He's playing 20 minutes in these games. So here's the thing: like, if this was just Victor being like putting up 40-point triple doubles, where he was just doing it all himself, that would be one conversation.
Mm-hmm.
McMahon, you were saying this on the group text today. This is a eye-opening. Not even eye-opening. It's an establishing moment for these perimeter players,
dude,
who are giving the Thunder hell.
The Thunder are the best perimeter defensive team in years. They're a historically dominant defensive team, especially on the perimeter, with Lou Dort, with Alex Caruso, with Cason Wallace, Jalen was all these guys, and they just tend to suffocate, smother, and, as you said, bully opposing guards. These Spurs guards are completely unbothered. Dude, the Spurs guards, and I'm talking about De'Aaron Fox, who, hey, that's a dude who's been an all-NBA player, and boy, he looked like one today. Stephon Castle, reigning Rookie of the Year, and man, he's taken a massive leap. And Dylan Harper, who, number 2 overall pick and has lived up to the hype. These guys had 60 points on insane efficiency today. What, a 26 of 35 from the floor. And Fox, it was a great shot-making game from him. 3 of 4 from three-point range, but just dominant from the mid-range. But Castle and Harper in particular, these guys are attacking elite defenders. There was one play where Dylan Harper honestly kind of bullied Cason Wallace and got to the bucket for a layup. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is insane. And that's their third guard. The way that the Spurs are bullying OKC, bullying them offensively and getting where they want to go, and it's guard driven. That to me is what's been especially eye-opening.
The thing that stands out about this matchup so far is that when you watch the Thunder play against basically any team, they tend to, at some point in the game, overwhelm them with their combination of athleticism and speed and physicality, right? And they create these runs where they go up by 10 or 15 or 20 points. It's why a couple of weeks ago, there was a stat, I believe, going into the first Spurs game where they had led by 20 points for more minutes this season than they had trailed at all, right? And the thing that really stood out to me, seeing this team in Vegas, the Spurs team, which we talked about at the time, and it's really, I think, carried over to these games, is this team is so big physically across the board that, like you said, McMahon, they're not bothered by the length and athleticism and speed of the Thunder, and they're able to give the Thunder problems at the other end in a way that no other team I've seen has been able to. Like, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander rarely looks uncomfortable. He almost always looks completely unbothered. He often looks uncomfortable or has looked uncomfortable playing against these guys.
Yeah.
And if you're a Thunder partisan, you could say, yeah, they didn't get a lot of free throws the other night. You could say they didn't hit a lot of shots today from three. That's fine. But the bottom line is, for a team that usually imposes its will on the opposition every single night, they're not able to do that right now against this Spurs team. And to pull back the curtain a little bit, we were only going to do a podcast if there was some extraordinary circumstances that would require doing one today. Well, I would say that the team that we thought could win 74 games, losing 3 times in 12 days to a single team, a team that, yes, we thought could easily make the playoffs this year, but certainly did not think was going to be competing for home court advantage.
I wasn't sure they were making top 6. I said this in the preseason.
Yeah, you have, right.
The Spurs fans were on me about that because I'm the no ceiling on Victor guy. I'm the no ceiling on Victor guy, and I'm still shaken by how much they've taken.
By the way, you know who didn't expect this to happen? The Spurs. Like, the Spurs did not expect to be 23-7.
Wemby,
and having well, we got competing discoveries here, which is hard. But they didn't expect to be 23-7. They didn't expect to be absolutely smacking the Thunder twice in 3 days, winning by 20 at home and then winning by double digits in Oklahoma City on Christmas Day.
And by the way,
this is not what they expected either.
The first game was, the game on a neutral court, was a 2-point game,
sure,
somewhat of a toss-up. The second game is the second night of a back-to-back, sure. Coming in, I think 3 of the 4 losses that the Thunder had were on the second night of back-to-backs. Yeah. Like, you could slap some asterisks on those. No asterisks on this one.
Not a
fully healthy and at home with prep time.
All the motivation in the world. Like, did the Spurs have their full attention and full respect? Obviously and absolutely. And the Spurs controlled this game. Just completely controlled the game. And again, with me playing 26 minutes, that to me is pretty scary. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that anybody but OKC is the favorite, but you say no ceiling on Wemby. I'm going to say no ceiling on these Spurs. Typically a team.
Maybe I need to pivot to that because the thing about it is their redundancy on the perimeter. De'Aaron Fox isn't a strong defender, but obviously Castle and
Harper
are, and even Vassell, he has good size, depending on the matchup. So like Fox had what I think 6 points on Tuesday, and Vassell had like 20. So this game, Vassell has a bad shooting night. He's a non-factor offensively. Fox has 29.
And listen, Harrison Barnes has been very good for them too. He's not a guard, but I'm just saying, there's another guy who
he's a perimeter player. He's essentially a perimeter player.
He's a a three-point shooter, and he's got that old man slow step game that he's developed as a finisher now. And the other thing where OKC overwhelms teams on a regular basis is with their depth. They just come at you in waves. And Bontemps, I know you said you weren't that impressed with the Spurs' depth, but man, I'm telling you, they played 9 dudes today outside of garbage time, and they're 9 good players.
Well, look, Keldon Johnson is a starter on a lot of teams. He doesn't have a perfect game, but he starts for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Julian Champagnie has been a starter for the Spurs. Like he's a start. I mean, he wouldn't be
a starting caliber players for sure.
Yes.
And so is Dylan Harper.
And obviously right now, Victor is coming off the bench. He's, that's not going to last. But Dylan Harper,
pretty tough when Wemby's playing.
Those 9 guys, like assuming, Luke Cornett has, I don't know how many teams
he's a starting caliber player too. They've got.
That's the thing. Coming into the season, look, Keldon Johnson has been awesome this year. I've not at times been a huge fan of his game in the past. He's been great for them as a veteran guy who's been through a lot of losing there. I think it's been really fun to see how into this run he's been, and there's at least once or twice a game when he makes a big play and loses his mind, and it's been cool to see.
He's got a great personality. I got to know him a little bit during the 2021 Olympics, where he was like a late ad.
Yeah.
Like basically Popovich says, give me a Spur that I can trust at the last minute. And his attitude on that team was infectious. He is a great guy to have on your team.
And Mike Warner will tell you he is the vibes guy in that locker.
He's
people at the Spurs. It's all the same thing. I mean, they've called him the heart and soul of the team to me, and I you could see it in the way he carries himself. And like you go through the roster, like you said, Champagnie's a really nice depth piece. Cornett is obviously a guy who has won a title, has shown he's a guy who is a legitimate rotation player. His story is remarkable.
If they need to go French vanilla, they can play them both together. I don't think that's going to happen a lot of nights, but they can do it.
Well, and the biggest thing that's changed here is last year Stephon Castle won Rookie of the Year, but was a flawed player and has made as you said, McMahon, a massive step forward. And Dylan Harper has walked in and been awesome from the jump. And you're talking about this team leaning on a lot of times a rookie guard, which usually rookie guards are terrible, and a second-year guard, and often second-year guards aren't that good. And yes, the shot with Stephon Castle still an issue, but he's an unbelievable defensive player. He gets to the rim. He's become a way better decision maker, playmaking on offense. Harper, I loved Harper's game since he was at Rutgers, and I watched him in person a couple times. He's awesome.
And they're big, tough, physical, explosive guard.
That's the thing. Coming out of that, I can't tell you how jarring it was to see the Spurs in person for the first time in a long time, and just to see how big they were across the board. And you can see, OKC, like I said, they play with a physicality with not having huge size, with their speed and power and some of their length on the perimeter. Guys like Caruso obviously play a lot bigger than they are. The Spurs are just big everywhere. And that size, it's really worn on them in these games. And the fact that we're sitting here talking about the Thunder not only losing 5 games after being 24-1, but having lost 3 times in less than 2 weeks to the same team. I mean, I had a couple people in the league hit me and say this is an awesome thing for the league.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't agree more. This is incredible for the league that we're not sitting here saying, well, the Thunder are going to walk to the title. I'm with you, McMahon. I think the idea that people are, if anybody starts saying the Thunder are not all that good or anything like that.
They're still the defending champs in 2005.
And they're awesome. But there's doubt in the equation now.
Yep.
And that was not the case 2 weeks ago. And from a neutral perspective, that's awesome.
And it's got a chance to be a decade-long awesome rivalry. And Wemby wants all the smoke, and his guys are right there with him. There is damn sure zero intimidation factor. And by the way, you're booing Wemby in OKC. He loves it. You know what, though? I'm serious about this. Mark Dagenham very rarely asks for my advice. I'm going to give it to him for free. Have Chet match up with Wemby. What I'm trying to do is get Wemby to make it as much about the one-on-one matchup as possible, maybe disrupt the rhythm of the Spurs. And I'm serious about that. By the way, we're talking about this.
Victor Wembanyama is a pretty thought-out, controlled guy.
Well, you know what, though? He's not going up against Chet. He wants to destroy Chet every time they're on the court. He got that offensive foul the other day for no reason. Just did a little shove on him.
He got Chet on the wing today and took a really tough step back because the man celebrates Chet's missed free throws.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. He had the mic on today, and that was caught a few times.
I am with McMahon. I think that it would be interesting to see if they try that, how it would go, because I could definitely see. And look, maybe Victor just makes 15 to 20 shots and it doesn't matter. But
I'm
it
going to
might
tell you,
get him off his game a little bit.
One thing that the Thunder clearly were trying to do in this game, they were trying to bait Victor into offensive fouls.
Yeah.
And there was even one play when Kendrick Williams did get an offensive foul. It was a soft call early in the game. And Victor thought it was weak, and he basically told Kendrick, that was weak. And he kept talking to him all the way down the court. And then a few minutes later, I don't remember, it was a different forward who sort of flopped. So that's clearly what they're trying to do.
I think it's also worth pointing out that for all of Victor's ethical hoops comments the other day, there's been a fair amount of turnaround is fair play with him and trying to draw some fouls and some free throws over these games against the Thunder.
By the way, Shea is nothing but extraordinarily complimentary of the Spurs and has repeatedly, going back to Vegas and, after these last couple of games, talked about how they play the right way. Shea's not going to say anything that's going to fuel the rivalry, but it's also just honest analysis.
Well, Shea is a grade A professional.
Oh yeah,
yes, he is.
He says I'm consistent in everything I do. He's consistent, regardless of the stuff people get on him about free throws. He doesn't, he plays a pure style of basketball, and his
your team is as
pure.
good. Your team is as good and as steady as your best player, and he's as good and steady as any player in the league.
Right. I will say this: if you are a Thunder supporter, what you're saying is that the Thunder had two of their worst possible shooting games, because the Spurs strategy is they let Victor roam. They will put him on a guy they don't care about taking an outside shot, and then they'll let him come over and be a help defender because he can cover an absolutely astounding amount of ground because of his length. He can get from basically spacing the floor, defending a floor spacer, to blocking a shot and help defense. And it's like no one. But that said, they are willing to give up threes, especially corner threes.
Well, and
the Thunder,
today it was Caruso. Caruso missed his first 9, ended up 2 of 12.
Well, and Alex Caruso is not a good shooter. And I'm sorry, him shooting 12 threes in a game, if he does that, that's a win for the defense. He might have games where he goes 6
corner threes. He cannot pass up those shots.
I'm not saying he should pass up shots. But for example, if you look at the box score of this game, 3 players shot double-figure attempts in the game for the Thunder. Shea was 7 for 19. It's obviously uncharacteristically poor for him. Barely got over the 20 points today. Jalen Williams was 5 for 13, which is not good enough. He's going to have to be better against high-level teams. And Alex Caruso had 13 shots. If Alex Caruso and Jalen Williams have the same amount of shots, that's a win for the defense. That's what they're trying to do. And you have to look at the box score and say, the Spurs got what they wanted in this game. And yes, the Thunder, I'm sure, would tell me the shot quality was good on these shots. I'm not saying they shouldn't take the threes, but this has sort of been the thing with the Thunder for the last couple of years, where they are dogmatic. They do stick to what they do. They don't really go off script at all. And if they're in a situation like this where the shots don't fall, what's the plan B?
Well, I will say this. Lou Dort and Isaiah Joe are 2 of the best corner 3-point shooters in the league. And those guys weren't the ones necessarily getting those shots. So what I would say, although Dort not sure what he Dort, but I think
Dort was 2 for 7. Isaiah Joe was 1 for 2 from 3. The team shot 11 for 44 from 3.
Casey Wallace was 1 of 4. Wallace and Caruso are going to have to make threes against this team.
So I will say that the Thunder are, I think, 7th in the league in 3-point percentage, 7th or 8th or something like that. And twice in the 3 games, they've shot 25% or worse on 3. Today shot 25.
But
I'm not taking anything away from the Spurs. I'm just saying, like, that did happen.
But that's how they lost to the Mavs, right? 2 years ago, when they lost in the semifinals to the Mavs, that was the series.
Thunder went back. Sean Sweeney was orchestrating the Mavericks defense, who's now orchestrating the Spurs defense.
Now he's orchestrating the Spurs defense. And again, if you go back and look at the shot quality, like the Thunder got good shot quality, better shot quality than the Mavs in that series, but they didn't hit shots. And yes, I'm as much a process over results guy as anybody. So I appreciate the Thunder's approach to that. And we're getting good shots. We're going to take these shots. If Alex Caruso's wide open, he's got to take these shots. I get all that. But, it is going to be a question that comes up if these teams do match up in the conference semifinals or the conference finals. And if we get into a similar situation like with the Mavs, is it going to just be the same? We're going to get the shots. We're going to take the shots and we'll see how it goes. Or is the shot profile going to change? Is the approach going to change some? Is there going to be some attempts to do some different things? Because look, Shea said it, we're talking about 3 games now, neutral site, road, home. And in the 3 of them, the Spurs have come out on top. And in the last 2, it frankly hasn't been that competitive, especially compared to what you expect for the Thunder to do. So I think all eyes should be on that January 13th game. And that's one of the most fascinating games remaining in the regular season. Okay. I was sitting there with McMahon when Shea said that in the presser in Vegas, and we both said, hey, that's exactly what you want to hear him say. Let's see what these 2 games look like. And we saw what they look like, and it was not what we anticipated whatsoever.
No, and the other thing with OKC is, the Thunder they're not a bad half-court offensive team, but they're a human half-court offensive team, right? Where the Thunder end up being ranked near the top of the offensive ratings is because they are elite at forcing turnovers and turning those into buckets. And the Spurs have not let them do that. The Spurs only committed 12 turnovers a day. And, Castle had 4 of those, I believe. I think 3 of those 4 probably were him throwing the ball out of bounds, which, okay, you can live with that because you can't turn throwing the ball out of bounds into a transition bucket. The other thing is there was at least 2 or 3 occasions where it was a live ball turnover, and the Spurs did a phenomenal job of getting back in transition defense and preventing it from turning into a wide open look or a layup. Now, I do want to just point out that called Defense of the Thunder, I guess, Jalen Williams is working his way back from surgery on his shooting wrist. Jalen Williams is not the guy that he is going to be in February and March and April, May, and they hope in June, right? He's not all NBA Jalen Williams right now. If they have that second all NBA creator, then maybe things are a little bit different. But they asked Dub the biggest problem, something along the lines like the biggest problem with the Thunder's defense. He goes, or Thunder's offense. He said, well, there's a 7'5" guy out there. And let me just give you a little Stats Williams special here. The Thunder are putting up 0.91 points per possession when Wemby's on the floor over these 3 games. 0.91. As good as Cornette is.
Since we usually talk about per 100 possessions, that's 91 points per 100 possessions on offense. The worst offense in the league right now is 110.
Yeah, and the Thunder are somewhere like 103, lead the league by far in defense rating. Yeah. As good as Cornette is, it's 125 when Wemby's not on the floor.
Yeah, so, the worst offense in the league right now is the Indiana Pacers at 107.
Yeah,
just to give you an idea of what we're talking about.
And again, if you want to look at this from the Spurs point of view and plan a fiesta in June, Wemby hopefully is not going to have a minutes restriction come playoff time.
Good point. All right. I'll tell you one thing, no matter how many games the Thunder win, whether it's 70, whether it's 65, whether it's 75, whatever, this 10 days, 12 days, whatever it is, will hang over them. This will, and that may end up being a good thing. Like that may be a focusing point. But this will now, despite the fact that they've, been winning at an 80% clip for 2 years now, despite the fact they got a banner up there, they will have to deal with this sort of barking at their tail for the rest of the season until they prove it differently.
I will say too, it's funny. It's not a perfect comparison because of where the teams were in their life cycles compared to where the teams are now. This kind of feels like the reverse of Spurs Thunder in 2016, which is a series I covered in the playoffs and a matchup that I saw throughout the year, where that Spurs team was like the dying embers of, there was Tim Duncan's last year. They had LaMarcus Aldridge and Kawhi Leonard and Tony Parker. They won 67 games. Manu was still on the team. They're chasing down the Warriors the whole year. Everybody thought it was going to be Warriors Thunder or Warriors Spurs in the conference finals. And the Thunder had this was like prime Kevin Durant, which is why it's not the same thing. But that was a team that was like physically overwhelming in a way I've maybe never seen a team otherwise. And they physically overwhelmed that Warriors team that year, and they physically overwhelmed that Spurs team and beating them in the conference semifinals. This kind of feels the same way, where I don't know if the Spurs are going to win that series or if the Spurs would get by, say, Jokic or get by the Rockets or whoever, but this matchup and the way the two teams line up, it is a very interesting stylistic clash, and it's now on OKC to figure out a way to do something about it.